So the first thing you need to do is type Photopea into Google, and the first thing that comes up is www.photopea.com, and you need to click on this one. The screen that comes up, you need to click New Project and then name your project. So I'm going to call this Year 10 Example, and then you've got your dimensions and you've got your background colour. So with the dimensions, you can either type it in yourself, or you can go to a predetermined one underneath, which is what I'm going to do. So if I click photo, and I could click 8x12 inch, which is a portrait image, okay, and then this comes up here, so 8x12, and then I'm going to select my background colour, which can be white or black or transparent, and I'm going to stick with white for that one. And then once you've decided these things, you can click create, and this is what comes up. So along the left hand side and along the top, you've got lots of different tools, and along the right hand side here, you've got your layers. So layers are very important in Photopea, okay? So you need to think of each layer as a plastic Polly Pocket, okay? And imagine that each layer you're putting images into your plastic Polly Pocket, and then you're stacking those Polly Pockets on top of one another. So every layer is a new Polly Pocket. Because they're transparent, you can see what's underneath, okay? So that's how you need to think of each layer. So now I'm going to start inserting layers by inserting images. So I need to go onto File, Open and Place, and you'll have your architectural images on your computer. So I'm going to select Architecture 1, okay, my first image, and that's come up very small in the corner there. Can you see now that I've got my background layer and I've got my Architecture 1, okay? So the layer that I'm selected on is the layer I'm working on. So if I click back onto background, I'm no longer on that selected layer. So I need to select Architecture 1, and if you want to select the image that's on here, you need to make sure you've got the mouse tool, the move tool selected at the side here, and then click Transform Controls, and you'll see that these little arrows come up on the image. So if I go like this and make the image bigger, okay, it distorts it, as you can see. So if I'm going to click Control Z to go back a step there. So Control Z if ever you make a mistake, to go back one step, okay? Control Z on your keyboard. And I'm going to press the Shift key this time as I'm making that bigger, okay? So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and you can see it doesn't distort the image. And I can move this around. If you go onto the corners, you've got this little arrow that comes up, and you can use that to rotate the image as well. So I'm going to rotate that image that way, and then just pop it down here, and then press the little tick tool, okay? So that's going to make sure that that's placed there. And then to get rid of these little squares, I'm just going to deselect Transform Controls. So that's set in that place on that layer now. The tool that I wanted to show you is the lasso tool, which is at the side here under Rectangle Select. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom in on the image, and I'm going to use the lasso tool to get rid of any areas in the image that I don't want. So I'm going to press View, zoom in, and then scroll up using my mouse, or you can use Control plus, okay? And then you can use the hand tool if you wanted to move across on the image, okay? So I'm going to press Control plus again and then go up. So now to use the lasso tool, I'm going to right click on it so these different options come up. So you've got the rectangle select, but I want to use lasso select. This little square will come up when you click it, and this is a freehand tool, okay? So I'm actually going to go all the way along the top of the building here, and I'm going to make that into a shape. So you must make it into a round shape or a square shape, whichever's easier, okay? But it must meet again at the beginning, because then when I let go of my mouse, this little dotted line comes up. And then if I press delete on my keyboard, so we've got something to troubleshoot here, I need to rasterize the layer in order to edit it, okay? So I'm going to go onto layer, rasterize, okay? And then I'm going to press delete, okay? Now to get rid of that dotted line, I'm going to press Control D on my keyboard, and that's Control D for Delta, okay? And you can see that that's got rid now of that section of that image. So I'm going to do this all along the side of the image, but this time instead of using lasso select, I'm going to use polygonal, lasso select. And the difference with this one is that it automatically draws this in a straight line for you. So you might find this one much easier to use depending on your images. Now just remember that you can always press Ctrl Z to go back a step if you make a mistake. So I'm going to press delete on my keyboard and then Ctrl D to delete the dotted lines. And I'm going to do this all along the side of my image. So again here, delete, Ctrl D, and I'm just going to move along the side. So I'm going to use my hand tool again to move down here and then go back onto my lasso select, my polygonal lasso select this time. And again, just delete and then Ctrl D. Just trying to do this quickly so that you can see, but you'll be much neater in the way that you do this compared to me. It'll take a lot more time doing it. So just deleting that section. So again, creating that shape and then pressing delete and Ctrl D. So I'm going to zoom back out again now and re-centralize my image. Okay. So now I've got rid of all of that background. So now I want to select my next image to go over the top. So I'm going to press File, Open and Place, and I'm going to select Architecture Image 2 and press Open. And you can see now this one's come up much bigger. It automatically puts it into a new layer. So think of this one now as sitting on top of this layer. So if I didn't want to look at this for a second, I could press the little eye tool there and hide that layer. That's what the eye tool is for. You're hiding a layer, okay? But I want to see it now. And now if I want to select this to move it around, remember I have to be on my move tool again, okay? And transform controls. So I'm going to do the same, press my shift key and scale that down again. And I'm going to move this round and rotate it like we did before. And I'm going to pop this up here at the top and then press tick and unselect transform controls. Now I just want to make this image a little bit rounder. Oh, I've just made a mistake, so I'm going to press Ctrl Z to go back again. Okay, and I just want to zoom in and go up to the top of this image. So I'm just going to round these edges out. So again, I'm going to use my lasso select tool and I'm just going to freehand around the edge here and deselect that. So, oh, I'm not selected on a layer, so that's what's happened there. I needed to make sure I was selected on that layer. So, and again, I need to rasterize this layer and then press delete. So Control D to get rid of those dotted lines. And now I'm going to go down and I'm going to get rid of this section as well. So I'm going to go back onto freehand lasso select. And I'm going to press delete again and Control D. Okay, and that's just an example of how you might want to blend those images together. You could do this all around the edge as well. And just think of it as, remember that this image is underneath, okay? So if I chose to delete a big section here, that image is still underneath, so it's going to come through, isn't it? Okay? So I'm going to press Control Z to get rid of that. And you can also swap around the order of your layers, okay, by clicking on this and then popping that underneath. So now this layer sits on top. So if I hide Architecture 2, you can see which layer sits where, okay? I'll put that one back on top now. So you can add more images now. So you can go into File, Open and Place, add more, rotate them, delete any areas that you don't want to blend those together to make a collage. And then once it comes to saving your work, you can either save as PSD, okay, which means that you're saving it with all of the layers intact, so you can go in and edit each layer, or you can export as a JPEG, okay? And this means that you'll be able to edit the image but all of the layers will be fused together. Okay, so you won't be able to edit the layers individually. It will save as one photo, but this is much better for storing as memory on your computer, and this is how I want you to save them as your final image. Okay, because then you can send that very easily if you save it as a JPEG, because it's not a massive file then. Okay.